Hello and welcome to another episode of All Politics is Local. I'm your host, John Tian. All Politics is Local is a production of the Greater Blackstone Valley Democrats. For more information about the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems, feel free to visit our website at www.gbvdems.org. With me in the studio tonight is a candidate for state rep in the 6th Worcester District, Karen Spiewak. Karen, welcome to All Politics is Local, and thank you so much for making All Politics is Local a stop on the campaign trail.
Well, I appreciate you having me here today, John. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're very welcome. I see signs all over the place here. This is wonderful. We'll get to it in a little while, but one of my special parts of the show that's been happening for a little while here for the past couple of episodes is people giving me campaign swag, and I understand you've brought me a ton of campaign swag.
We have lots of stuff for you.
I'm very excited. If you have any T-shirts or anything like that, I hope they're extra huge.
We have lots.
That's kind of the size I need. So tell us about the 6th Worcester. What's the district all about? I understand it's been redistricted recently.
Yes, and thank you for asking, because there's a lot of confusion out there. When I go door to door, people still think Oxford, for instance, is part of the district. So the 6th Worcester district consists of all of Dudley, all of Southbridge, precincts 1, 2, and 3 in Charlton, and precinct 1 in Spencer.
Okay, all right. So you've got a couple of partial towns and a couple of full towns there.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of a challenge getting across the district to meet all the voters, or how's that going?
No, it's going well. It's not that much of a challenge because they're located with they border each other, so it's not bad at all compared to some of the reps that they have out there.
Yeah, nicely contiguous and yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have any campaign events coming up or anything like that you'd like to tell our viewers about?
Every day was a new adventure. Every day we have something coming up. We've been campaigning, or I've been campaigning for about 16 months. Believe it or not, we had our kickoff back in October.
Really?
And I've actually been involved with the campaign since actually 16 months.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Long time. So we had a kickoff, and most recently we did have another kind of a fundraiser, if you will. And moving forward, we're just attending different events, and we are working on another fundraiser moving forward, because as you know, campaigns are a little
they cost money.
Pricey,
yes.
A bit.
So I remember seeing you at our Greater Blackstone Valley Dems St. Patrick's Day breakfast that we did earlier this year. Yeah. We learned a harsh lesson there. We shouldn't plan an 8 a.m. breakfast on Spring Ahead Day.
Yeah, a lot of coffee being consumed that morning.
I do apologize for the early hour, especially on Spring Ahead Day. We didn't even consider that when it was back in January when we planned the day. So it was great to see you there. It was a great event. We really enjoyed it tremendously.
Again, thank you, because that was a wonderful opportunity to bring everyone together and hear what the messaging is.
Right.
It's so important.
Right, and we had great turnout, even considering the ungodly hour. So
yes, yeah. I think everyone went to bed early that night, though. So,
so tell us a little bit about your issues that you want to run on in this race.
Sure. So I'd like to speak specifically to the 6th Worcester District, and it is a representation, of course, of what's happening across the state. But when you talk to people, it really is about the basics. It's about jobs. It's about education. It's about public health and safety. When you talk to people, on the board, town councilors or board of selectmen, it's about, hey, we would love to be able to know what the money is coming in next fiscal cycle, whatever, because it's like they need a crystal ball to look into to plan accordingly. So early release of those figures would be a huge asset. And I know, because I've been on the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee, I served there for like 8 years, so I know how important it is to get those figures ahead of time if possible, or as early as possible. Other things, expanding the economy. People are always talking about jobs and what we can do to help people get more jobs. And of course, it's about investing in education. It's about investing in infrastructure. It's about investing in innovation. And when I talk about things like infrastructure, I'm not just talking about roads and bridges. I'm talking about technology infrastructure, because that, especially out in our part of the state, the further west you get, the less we have for technology. We all need to stay connected.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a vital, a very important point, certainly. So tell us a little bit about local aid. What would you do with local aid? You say you want to get the numbers from the state a little sooner?
Yes, I would really be pushing to do that. It can be done, but again, as you know, you don't do anything alone. You have to be able to work cooperatively with people and convince them this is what needs to get done, so we can bring those figures back to the municipality so they can plan.
Okay.
It's so hard to plan when you don't know what the real numbers are.
Right.
You know?
Right. One of the things that I've seen recently, the Globe put up a spreadsheet showing how much money individual towns spend on the lottery and how much they get back out of the local aid budget that's mainly funded from the lottery proceeds. I think about 96% or 97% of the funding for that budget comes from lottery proceeds. It was shocking here in Milford. Milford spends over $25 million annually on lottery tickets, and we get back about $2.5 million. So we're getting about 10 cents on the dollar. From that fund. And other towns make out a lot better. I don't know where your towns are, or if you saw that article.
I did, and I do know that, again, when you talk to people, especially those who are working in the town, elected officials, it's like, why aren't we getting more of this back here? What can we do to get more directed back here? Again, it goes back to working cooperatively to get that done. There are other ways to get more money back to your district, though. You can be aware of the needs in the towns and bring it back through different grants, state grants. I know Senator Brewer had been very helpful to us. I believe recently he brought back over $200,000 worth of money in different grants for different projects in our town.
Yeah, Senator Moore was on my show actually in, I think it was in February or so. I had him on, and we talked about the last legislative year and what he's been able to do for the district, and it really is tremendous what he's done. The funds that he's brought back for all manner of different all the towns really in the district. There's 14 or 15 towns across the district, and he's really done well for them. Now, you also have another senator, though, because there's other representation in Charlton, correct?
Right, we have Senator Brewer, Senator Moore.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You said,
two
I'm
great
sorry.
guys.
I didn't
No,
hear that
no.
before. I thought you said Senator Moore when you said Senator Brewer.
No,
So, okay. So, yeah, that's actually kind of a leg up by having two senators in the Senate. Here in the Milford area, we have John Fernandes, who represents Milford and Hopedale and Mendon. He also has a piece of Medway, but basically he works very closely with Senator Moore because most of his constituents are here in Senator Moore's district. So, okay. So on the jobs front or on the economy front, what do you see as the issues in the district?
So when you talk to the small business owners, which they're very honest, they just want everything to be fair and to maybe streamline policies and make it easier for them to do business in Massachusetts. Small businesses really are the backbone of the communities. I know in our town, and as it is across the state, they employ people, they provide a service, but what they also do, a lot of people, and it's overlooked, is they give back. If the local nonprofit goes to them, they give back over and over again. So it's important we work to keep those doors open and work with them to make it easier for them to do business here.
Sure, absolutely. So let's get to my fun section of the program. My latest fun episode that we've been adding in is a quick look at my bumper, because I understand you brought me a bumper sticker. So we want to take a quick look at my infamous tailgate. Brett, if you could bring it up on the screen, my infamous tailgate. There it is.
Oh, I
took that picture about a half an hour ago out in the parking lot here. I like the lens flare. I think that's a nice touch, and I'm going to see if I can't continue to get a lens flare in there.
Okay, yeah.
Nice shiny bumper. I actually got hit from behind about 6 months ago, so I have a brand new bumper on my old truck. So looking at that tailgate, it's getting pretty crowded. But where would you like to see your bumper sticker go? And can I have your bumper sticker?
Yeah. Actually, let's see. We have it over here. Can we bring it in?
Yeah, I think it's right there under the hat.
So much here. Yes. Let's see. Here we go. What do you think?
Oh, that's lovely. Oh, and it's a
It's a
magnetic
yes,
one.
so
Oh, this is very special.
Well,
Brett, bring up camera 3, please. Look at that. There we go. Keep the lights off. Elect Karen Spiewak, and it's a magnetic one. So I can, if I were able to get rid of my truck somehow, I could actually bring this along with me to my next vehicle. That's fantastic.
Or you put it on your refrigerator, whatever you would like to do.
There you go. Community focused and results driven. That is tremendous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So where do you think we should put it on the bumper? I guess the picture is down right now, but we have a little space to the left and a little space to the right.
Why don't you go to the, you pick.
Okay. We don't want to make any statements, right?
Sit.
We'll call it driver's side and passenger side rather than left and right. That
There you
might make a
go.
little more sense for you.
It'll look good wherever you put it. How's that for a nice
There you go.
response?
So what else have you got for me? I see some other stuff
Oh,
here,
yes,
so I've
yes.
got to know.
You'll be all set for the weekend there to keep you out of the sun.
I will. Oh, I love a
We
white
have
hat because of
hats.
my bald head.
Yep.
Let's see, how's this look? Oh yeah,
adjustable.
there we go.
It's you.
Very nice. It's me, is it?
Yep, we have it all. And then we have the shirts.
The shirt, well, you know what? I think that shirt is not an extra huge. I may have to give this to my daughter.
It's all right.
But she appreciates campaign swag too, so thank you so much.
You're
Now,
welcome.
if my viewers wanted to find out some more about your campaign or where to donate, volunteer, things of that nature.
Again, www.ksrepma.com. And from there, you can go to my Facebook page. It's a lot easier just to click on it from there. Or you could follow me,
Follow on Twitter.
Twitter, absolutely.
KSRepMA. Terrific, terrific. Yeah.
And you have to have a good team behind you. So I just want to give a shout out to the team Spiewak. They have about 15 core group people right around me all the time, and they're wonderful.
That's terrific.
Because you have this part of it, and then you have all the behind-the-scenes stuff that needs to get done,
Right.
and you can't do it alone.
Oh, you absolutely can't.
so-
Yeah, it's great to have a team behind you. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go back to the issues a little bit. Tell me a little bit about. We talked a little bit about unfunded mandates, and it's kind of interesting that you brought up unfunded mandates when we were talking before the show.
Yes.
My last guest was State Auditor Suzanne Bump, and one thing that I had no idea that her office did was they sometimes examine unfunded mandates. If cities and towns come back to the auditor's office and say, look, we've been mandated to spend this money in our school district or in our, in some capacity we've been mandated to spend some money, but it's unfunded from the state. Can't we do something about that? And she actually does make determinations as to whether or not the legislature should appropriate those funds. So tell us a little bit about your experience with unfunded mandates.
Again, having served on the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee for about 8 years, I had a lot of time to work on this. And what I can tell you, what's frustrating, for instance, and I can use regional transportation aid as an example. We're supposed to get 100% reimbursement for that, and we rarely see, this year, however, thanks again to Senator Brewer, got to give him a shout out, got us 90% back.
Wow.
90%, that's huge.
That's tremendous.
But that really impacts your town, okay? Other things, even for public libraries, state aid to public libraries, things like that is so important to be funded because it directly affects the pocketbooks of the residents in the town. And mandates, when we talk about mandates, sometimes we pass legislation that requires more manpower, which again, when you're taking an administrator away from what they should be doing to fill out paperwork, a lot of paperwork, it adds up. So, but we need to, every year I would go to Boston, and as you probably know, you have whatever committee you're on. If you're a library trustee, it's the day in the hill for the library people. School committee, same thing. You'd go and you'd meet with your legislators, and you would say, hey, we need money for transportation. If you could include money in the circuit breaker to bring for the special ed students. That's what you did, and that's how I managed to build the rapport that I have with the legislators in Boston to this day. Is going there and telling them we need more money. show us the money. We need it.
Show me the money.
Right.
So, what do you plan? What do you hope to do when you're in the legislature? Do you have any idea what committees you'd like to be on or anything like that, or?
Anything to do with education, of course, because my whole life has been about it. For the last 20 years, I've been involved in the community. I live in Charlton. And I started out on the school council's PTO, went up to the school committee. Right now I'm on the Dudley-Charlton Education Foundation, and I actually write grants for STEM funding.
Oh, terrific.
Which is, for everyone who doesn't know, 'cause science, technology, engineering, and math. I don't know about you, but it drives me crazy when people only talk in acronyms. It's like, what is that?
The alphabet soup of government, right?
Yes. Also, I served as a library trustee. I just took that hat off. That was a little bittersweet because I really enjoyed that, but this campaign takes a lot of your time. So
Sure, of course it does, yeah. So we're looking for a promotion for you, and I sure hope that we get it for you. That'd be tremendous to have you representing your district. I think that it'd be better representation than what we've maybe seen in the past couple of cycles.
And that goes to why I'm running. Really, I really feel like we need stronger representation at the state rep level in our district. People are like, well, Karen, why are you doing this? Because I'm quite honestly, I am not a polished politician, and I'm quite proud of that. Thank you very much. I'm doing this because I've been involved for so long. I've really built a lot of bridges. I've really got to work alongside of people, and there's no better experience than working alongside of people. You get to talk to them, you get to build the rapport, and you really find out what's going on and what needs to be done.
Right.
And when you really think about that, over 20 years, it gives you valuable insight into the district needs. So that's really why I'm doing this. Some people say I'm crazy. I say, no, I know exactly what I'm doing, and bring it on. So.
Bring it on. That's great.
Yes.
That's great. I'm proud of you for running. It's tough to throw your hat into the ring like that, and certainly I wish you all the best. That's tremendous.
Well,
I know what you mean too when you say working alongside of people. I've been taking my politics wholesale for years out here in the Milford area. I love canvassing. I love going out and knocking on doors and talking to people. I really do. I enjoy it tremendously. I love to hear what people think and what they have for issues. And we did one of the best campaigns that I've ever been involved in last year, Casino Free Milford. I don't know what your position is on casinos, but I was certainly against them. I don't like the idea of casino gambling. I think it's the wrong way for the state to try and raise some revenue. My thought is that if we really need revenue, we should raise taxes and bite the bullet and just do so. By putting in a casino, we take it's kind of a regressive tax. We take money out of the economy. A huge pile of money goes out of the economy. Some of that goes back to the state, and some of it goes to the municipality. But casinos, in order for casinos to profit, people need to lose, and that's just, to my mind, just the wrong way to do things. Being a Democrat, my thought always has been, government can and should be a force for good in people's lives. There are those who say to me, oh, you guys, you just want to give everything away to people and buy their votes. Give them everything they need and buy their votes. Not really. I'm not trying to buy anybody's vote. I'm just trying to make sure that we get the government we deserve. We vote our government in, and we get the government that we deserve that way. And we should put people into power who want to see government be a force for good. And I can certainly see that in your thoughts about.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things you just brought up, again, when you go to talk to people, no offense, I'd rather be out there knocking on doors than an interview, but I understand this is what you need to do, and it gets the word out, and again, I thank you for it. But I like to be out there shaking hands, talking to the people. Just yesterday, we were at a huge event in Dudley. They have their annual Strawberry Festival.
Okay,
I don't know, have you heard of it?
No.
Signature event. The town literally shuts down. It's wonderful. Everyone, thousands of people attend this event. So yesterday we were there, and I was, as people were in line, I was shaking hands and talking to people, and some of them will share things right there. They'll tell you how it is, boy. But the day before that, they asked for volunteers to go and haul 1,600 pounds of strawberries. Team Spiewak was there. Can I just tell you, we were there. And I had someone say to me before, it's like, well, why are you going to that? There's not going to be a lot of people there. And I kind of looked at her and I said, because this is what we are about. This is what sets us apart. Again, I'm going back to my team, Team Spiewak. We show up, we go out, help nonprofits. But while we're there, again, you're learning. I learned the building we're in at the Grange needs new windows. Guess what? When I get to the State House, we're going to be finding money for those new windows.
Sure.
You get to build a rapport. You get to work hard. We were there from like 8:30 to 1.
Yep.
But again, it's not about the hulling of the strawberries. It's about everything that happens around it and working alongside of people, listening to their concerns in a very comfortable atmosphere. Because not everyone wants to come to an office or
to a campaign event and put themselves out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So I was very excited about that. But again, being out there talking to the people, I love it. That's what I like to do.
And spending several hours there too. That tends to make people more comfortable with you, and maybe they open up a little bit more. Yeah.
Yep.
That is tremendous.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so tell us, let's see, a little bit about, we talked a little bit about your experience, right? Or how about your experience in the district? We talked a little bit about your bio and where you're coming from, but let's talk a little bit more about your experience in the district.
Sure, so I'll tell you what it's a long list. Again, go to my website, www.ksrepma.com. My whole life is out there, and that was one of the hardest things to do when you prepare a campaign. Obviously, you have to put your whole life on paper, or in this case, social media. Joy.
Electronic ink. Yeah.
But so I've done a lot over the years. Over 20 years, I've worked either as a local official, elected official, or as a community volunteer. Mm-hmm. And I also have my own business. I have a consulting business that I kind of created because I'll be married 30 years in October. But when our two children were younger, we made the decision, I'd stay home. But meanwhile, I was doing other things, but as my children grew, I kind of stayed involved, but I was able to have my business on the side, which was very helpful. Mm-hmm. So that was good. So I actually write grants.
Oh, terrific.
I write grants for nonprofits and help with fundraising, development, council. And the other half of my business, because I have a master's degree in health education. Okay. And I also have a first degree black belt in Tong Soo Do. And I got it when I was in my 40s, not when I was in my 20s, people, just saying. But I teach health seminars, and I also teach the personal safety classes for women and children. I've done a lot of freebies because it's very important to me. It's something I'm very passionate about. Mm-hmm. So aside from doing that, but what I love is you have to be very good with your time management, obviously. But I'm so fortunate because I love everything that I do. I love, and my children now, 21 and 26.
Wow.
So all I have now at home is my husband and a dog we just adopted from the shelter. So.
We're downsizing a little bit.
The dogs actually go. Tango's going with me campaigning tomorrow. We're going to a wag and tag sale in Southbridge, and it's they're raising money for a dog park. Okay.
So I've heard that downsizing your home at this point is a good strategy. It prevents the kids from moving back in.
Yes. Or as I did with my son's room, I changed it into another living room area. He was
there
like,
you go.
Huh? But yes, absolutely. So going back to the whole what I've done in the community, been an elected official. Right now I wear, let's see, the hats. I'm on the Harrington Healthcare Systems Board of Directors. Okay. And a couple of subcommittees as well. On the Ed Foundation, writing the grants, Women in Business Advisory Board, Harrington Hospital Auxiliary member, and then again going back with my experience, I was very grateful to have the opportunity to serve 8 years on the school committee. That, we're talking at the time, I know the budget's up there for the schools in our district is about $49 million. Back then it was a little less, but still. That really was, I learned a lot during those years.
Okay, so you'd be very familiar then with Chapter 70 funding, et cetera?
Oh, Chapter 70 and everything that the schools are facing. And I do know I've told you I've been doing this for 16 months or so. One of the first things I did do is I reached out to other community leaders, including administrators and curriculum coordinators, and just to go back and really say, what do you think of this? What would you like to see happen? And again, it goes to they're handling the changes well, the school administration, school administrators, but everything happens so quickly. They don't feel some of the results that they're coming up with are really, they need more time to make them more valid, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's like you're trying to hit a moving target. It's very, very difficult. And again, going back to the mandates, you should mandate this. And a lot of times people don't get it. If you mandate something, it's not just about you need to have the money follow it. You need to have it it really needs to be thought out, the whole process. And that's so often that just doesn't happen. It's kind of like, and I have a lot of experience planning events, planned hundreds of events over the years. Sometimes it looks so good on paper. You go to execute it, that's where you do the walkthrough, right? It's like, oh, and you figure, you find this huge thing that you're missing. And that's the part I think maybe we don't do enough within government is the walkthrough.
Right.
It's like,
Well, we see things frequently too with government, like the Health Connector website just fell apart, right? It just fell down on the job, and we spent a lot of money on that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think that we're seeing there is very often when a firm wants to land a government contract, or when there's a government contract that's put out for bid for various firms to bid on and try to land, we end up getting a firm that's very, very good at winning government contracts. They may or may not be so good at what the contract was all about. They may or may not be really good at building website infrastructure. And I think that's what happened to us as far as the Health Connector is concerned. You know, we get a firm that can do a great job of winning the contract, but not so good of a job of delivering a website that actually works. And things like that give government a black eye, and it kind of reinforces the belief that government can't do anything right, and all that kind of stuff that we hear so often from the other side of the aisle. I find a discontinuity there that it boggles my mind sometimes. You know, on the other side of the aisle, it's you know, America is exceptional. American exceptionalism. It's the greatest country on earth. Yes, it's the greatest country on earth, but apparently the government can't do anything right. Well, how did we get there?
Right,
you know.
Yes, and this is something else I can tell you. You know, going door to door, what people are really tired of is the political finger pointing, the blame game. They're like, we are so sick of it. It's like, figure it out so we can move forward. Work. If we spent half the time working on solutions together than we did with pointing to it's their fault. It's like people are really tired of that, and quite honestly, I can't blame them.
Well, a point that I've always tried to make is there seems to be this overriding concern for bipartisan solutions. We need bipartisan solutions to our problems. No, we don't. We need solutions.
Right.
Whether they're bipartisan or not, we need to solve some issues and
right.
move forward. We need to stop the gridlock and really be able to move forward. The Massachusetts government, of course, being as heavily Democratic as it is, we don't have the same types of gridlock that they have in Washington, certainly, but still in all, we need to be able to move our government forward and have our government be a force for good. We see things like the Affordable Care Act. In Massachusetts, we're approaching 0% uninsured as a result of the Affordable Care Act.
It's wonderful.
That is tremendous.
Absolutely.
That's really good. But it's not just Massachusetts. Minnesota is well over 95% insured. It's wonderful.
It is.
You know, for those states that accepted the Medicaid expansion money, they're doing really, really well. And I think there's 24 states that have rejected the Medicaid expansion money. There's a study out that says 17,000 people will die this year in those states for lack of adequate health care.
Tragic.
It is. It's really tragic.
In the most powerful country in the world, in the richest country in the world, and here we are. We can't take care of our. Come on, really?
We can't take care of our own.
Well, so one of the things that I'd like to mention too is I truly believe, because I've been involved with enough board meetings, that when you get people together in a room, if everyone can agree on what the outcome should be, you can make it work. If you have a few people in there trying to throw in the monkey wrench, as they say, it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you truly can get people in there with this is where we need to be, and now we need to figure out how to get there, that's the way to do it. And the other thing, again, the observation, you know, after all these years of experience, I look back, and it's the ability to not make things personal. I tell you what, I debate like heck at the table, head to head with people. And actually, I'm proud to say a lot of people I've gone head to head with are my staunch supporters because they like it. It's like, yeah, you fight for what you believe in. But too often you find people, because we have a different opinion, they leave, they walk away, and it's like they don't talk to each other. I always say, debate at the table, get up and eat cake over there. Not throw it at each other. But that's so important, and I think we need to do more of that. And I've done a lot of reading. I'm big into research reading, looking at the data, looking at root cause analysis of things. Because I think too often and not, whatever issue we're trying to solve, sometimes we're not really going, and you have to attack it. It's like a multi-pronged approach. You can't just cut the head off the dandelion, as I like to say. You got to get at what's causing it. Why are people picking up guns? Why are people picking up abusing drugs or alcohol? You know, we really need to find out why and address that. Meanwhile, we need to be helping the people who have the issues, who have the problems. So it's important that we do that.
It sure is. It sure is. So that kind of gives us a nice segue into public health and safety. That was one of the issues that you listed as very important to you. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts.
Sure. I think to simplify, because I really like to do that. If there's a birth, if there's a death, or if you come down with a serious illness, it kind of makes you give pause, doesn't it? To think about everything and what really matters. So everything we've been talking about, if you don't have your health, you know, you could be a rocket scientist. You could have the best plans. You know, I could have the best plans when I get to Boston. If you don't have your health, you know, what do you have? You really, it's important we have safeguards in place that keep us safe, personal safety, our health, food sources, things like that. Otherwise, again, you could be the smartest person, you can have the best intentions, but if you don't have that you're not going too far. Or, just switching gears here for a minute, the ability to work cooperatively. Again, I don't have to like you. I've worked with a lot of people I didn't particularly like, but you got to be able to have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when I was going out and I talked to a lot of like police chiefs, I went to the Police Association, the legislative breakfast. I'm learning about legislative priorities. You listen and you hear it. You know, for instance, to keep us safe, and actually it goes back to the economy. We need to have safe neighborhoods. To do that, we need to make sure our professionals, our police and our fire, that they have training.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and so often that's the first thing that's cut. Even when you look at for schools, school districts, whether you're talking about teachers, whether you're talking about the school committee members, whether you're talking about a library trustee, any line of work, anything that you do, I truly believe it's about continuously learning, you know, professional development, I guess.
Yeah.
But for our police and fire especially, that's so important.
It sure is.
You know?
It's interesting that you say too things like food safety and other things. People tell me, you know, why do you care so much about politics? That's all you. It's like you live and breathe politics, John. Why do you care so much? Politics is everything. It's the air you breathe. It's the water you drink. It's the food you eat. It's the medicine you take. Politics is everything, and it's really vitally important. There was a study done recently I saw. Americans are woefully uninformed about politics and about the current state of affairs. Look at the debate on climate change.
Yes.
There should be no debate.
How's it? Yeah, even the average person knows, just because of the way the weather's been over the last few years, you can sit them down and they're like, yeah, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. And now what are we going to do about it, right?
I mean, I'm 56 years old. I grew up, I've been on this earth since 1958. I never in my life experienced an 8-day blackout until just recently.
Yeah.
I never experienced an 8-day blackout. An 8-hour blackout was long. Yeah. And it is just ridiculous what we're having with the various extremes of weather that we're finding. Look at Superstorm Sandy. Has Superstorm Sandy hit Boston?
Oh, I know.
How much of Boston would have been underwater? I went to see Ed Markey. I took my daughter to see Ed Markey at Faneuil Hall shortly after Superstorm Sandy, and he had 6 photos on easels in front of the stage showing what the impacts would have been, where the water would have been. You know, aerial photos of Boston with the water colored in, what sections of the city would have been underwater. And he also, on the reverse side of those, he had pictures from New York. Things like, you know, a waterfall cascading down some stairs in a subway station.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Not the kind of waterfront you want. You know, it's like
Exactly. If I want waterfront property, I'll go buy some. But you know, but it seems you know, I think I don't know if you've watched Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the series that's recently been on Fox. It's a resurrection of Carl Sagan's show from the 80s.
I don't watch much TV at all. I don't have any time. I'm knocking on doors. But tell me about it.
On the second to the last episode, he mentioned one of the things that I've been telling people all along. If we could see carbon pollution,
oh, so true.
it would make such a difference, okay? Yeah. Back in the 60s, I remember growing up, my parents used to take us down to the Uniroyal plant. I grew up in central Connecticut, and they used to take us down to the Uniroyal plant that was on the Naugatuck River down there. And that plant dumped raw chemical baths that it was using to create all the rubber, tires and et cetera. That's where they made Keds. That's why they took us down there. They took us there for sneakers. We went to the factory to get, you know, there's 7 kids in the family. So we went to the factory to get sneakers at the second-hand, you know, the factory second store. That's how we got our brand new sneakers every year. But we hated going there because the river smelled. It was awful. It ran this sickly yellow-green color and it stunk. From there, it ran all the way down to the Housatonic River, and then from there it merged with the Housatonic and went out to Long Island Sound. The reason the plant dumped all those chemicals was because they could.
They could, yeah.
They could. There was no law telling them that they couldn't until the EPA came along, you know? In those days, though, you could see the pollution, you could smell it, you could taste it on the tip of your tongue, and it was really, really awful. These days, with carbon pollution, you can't see it.
Yep.
And because you can't see it, it's easy to deny that it's happening or that it's any problem.
It's so true. You really hit the nail on the head. And actually, one of the things and I have a new mailer that I just created. One of the things that I stress is that, we really need to be good stewards take care of our environment. And quite honestly, if companies are caught polluting, we need to give them more than just a slap on the hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. It's so important.
Look at what happened in West Virginia recently with that Freedom Industries. They had coal chemicals, chemicals used for treating coal. It was methyl tertiary butyl something.
Can you spell it?
No.
That's all right.
I took organic chemistry, but
Wait, too. Oh.
but 10,000 gallons of it spilled into a river and contaminated the water supply for 300,000 people. And basically a slap on the hand is all they got for it.
Yeah.
They were recently caught polluting again, another chemical spill just recently.
And what happens? Sometimes it doesn't matter to them because they can afford to just
pay the fine and move on.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why that river supplied fresh drinking water for 300,000 people is coal mining has poisoned all the groundwater. So that's why they needed reservoirs and why that river was the water source, the only water source for 300,000 people.
Well, water. So that's one of the things going back to the 6th Worcester District. I know there's issues across the state in general, but for us, infrastructure, water infrastructure, huge problem, and to grow the economy. If you want a business to come into town, they have to have fire suppression. We need water. Yeah. But a lot of the water had been polluted by certain spills that happened many years ago. Mm-hmm. So huge that. So all the towns that I had mentioned earlier on, they're unique, but yet they're facing similar problems, similar issues, similar challenges.
Similar challenges.
And definitely infrastructure and water is one of them. A lot of them, even I know arsenic is a natural occurrence. It can be. We have very high levels of that. But the things that's happening through the big companies, that can be controlled. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you're right. If you can't see it, it's so easy to just carry on with your life,
to deny that it's any kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And what happens all too often on major media outlets, all too often they'll have one person who wants to deny climate change and one person who wants to really make the point that the science is pretty solid. Right. And when you have a 50-50 balance like that, it's tough to it's easy to see why people would think that there's a controversy. Recently, I don't know if you've ever watched John Oliver. He was a Daily Show reporter for years on Comedy Central. Nice funny story that I like to tell is I get my comedy from Fox News and my news from Comedy Central.
I understand.
But John Oliver has a show now on HBO. He's on Sunday nights, and he decided to do a climate change debate and make it real. And so what he did was he had Bill Nye the Science Guy on one side, and then he had another person on the other side who was a climate change denier. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, now since if you look at the actual scientists who are, who believe that climate change is a problem and it's man-made causes, there's, it's like a 97-3 ratio on this. Okay, so you, Mr. Climate Change Denier, I'm going to bring out two people who are going to assist you in making your point. And Bill Nye, I'm going to bring out 96 scientists to help you make your point. And he brought out they filled the studio with people, and they were all, shouting and having papers. And it really drove the point home that there is no real balance on this. It's the science is pretty clear.
And some of the things you just made me think of the whole debate over the GMOs. I mean, come on. Is it such a big, is this common sense? If I'm consuming something, I think I should have the right to know what's in the product I'm consuming.
Exactly.
But listening to that debate too, it's like, I don't.
And you get things in that area, you get things like, what was it, RBST, right? That's the bovine growth hormone that they put in to get more milk out of the cows. In Vermont, they passed legislation saying that you had to label your dairy products if they had RBST in them. The industry went to court and fought against it and got the regulations thrown out. Okay, so they spent mega dollars on
I was
lawyers.
just gonna-
et
and
cetera.
how did they do that, right? Because they have the mega dollars to
Exactly,
spend.
because they have the money to
Absolutely.
spend. They did that. So that wasn't good enough for them, because then what happened was the people who were doing dairy products without RBST started labeling their products to say RBST free,
There you go.
right? The same industry
Oh.
went back to court and made them stop doing that, because they said, by labeling your products as RBST free, you're implying that there's something wrong with RBST, and therefore you can't do that. It's just ludicrous on its face. It really is. And like you say, I mean, we should all be able to know what's in the food products we're eating. That's just plain
Absolutely.
common sense.
Oh, absolutely.
I think James Arena DeRosa was one of the LG candidates, lieutenant governor candidates, who that was one of the major issues that he had on his plate. Unfortunately, he didn't reach the 15% threshold at the convention last week, so he won't be on the ticket. But I certainly hope that somewhere in state government somebody continues to the fight on GMO.
Oh, and I hope so too. One of the things I wanted to mention, I had talked about water and pollution. In other states, if a town has an issue with a company, it's quite often the government will step in and help the small town, because they don't have
the resources.
The resources.
Yeah.
And I wish that would have been the case, like for instance in Charlton, and it wasn't. So those are things that are huge. That can really help a small town.
Yeah.
That, like you said, they don't have the resources because
Right.
they're drained.
Yeah.
There you go. I didn't even mean to say that. Are you like that? So true, though. So true.
Well, out here in the Blackstone Valley, we have such a rich history too of how this area was the heart of the Industrial Revolution for the United States. The first powered factory, powered by the Blackstone River, was built right here in the Blackstone Valley, and we really are the heart of the Industrial Revolution. It's great, rich history, and I'm so glad that they've created the Blackstone Valley National Corridor, et cetera, to kind of try and preserve some of that. And so.
And as you know, speaking of industry and manufacturing, and that's it's making a comeback. As a matter of fact, I know I talked about education earlier on, but it's not just pre-K through higher ed. We're talking job training, so people can fill these positions in advanced manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
They can't find people. I was, again, meeting with leaders and owners of companies in our district, and they said, we have the jobs, but we don't have people to fill them because they're not trained.
Okay. Yep.
So that's very important that we make sure that they're getting the training, and you can do the public-private partnerships. There's so many different things, different ways to look at things. It's not always about throwing money at a problem.
Right.
It's the partnerships that you can create and the collaborations, and sometimes, but this is what I definitely observed talking to people going from town to town. Sometimes you have the exact same things happening in each town, almost little silos, whereas there might be a way to regionalize or a way that one can help the other, so you're not actually duplicating efforts, if you will.
Right. Right.
But there's so many good things happening out there, but again, unfortunately, sometimes it's just being done over and over and duplicating efforts.
I've seen things like combined 911 call centers and stuff like that, where you have several towns collaborating to have one call center, and you do reach some issues there, I suppose,
Yes.
with knowledge of the towns and knowledge of the streets, et cetera.
Right.
But we've also seen Smart 911 coming in. I don't know if there's any towns in your district that have Smart 911. Milford has it now, and one of the things that I'm trying to get them to do, I work in the solar power industry.
Okay.
And so one of the things, I was talking with a firefighter a while ago, I was actually talking with a customer who raised the point of, what happens if there's a fire on your home and you have these panels up there? If they need to get through the roof, the panels are in the way, and it was something that I really hadn't considered.
Yeah.
So I did call the fire department, and I've sent an email to the chief and the deputy chief. What I'd like to see them do is actually add to the Smart 911 system to have a couple of fields that say, A, the home has a solar power system, because if there's a fire, you should know that there's going to be solar panels on the roof. And B, if it does have a solar power system, where's the DC disconnect? Where can I shut the system off? Those two things would be really vital information to have when the firefighters are heading out there. And in fact, I was talking with a potential client who is a Milford firefighter. He said that he'd like to learn a little bit more about solar power systems and how they're installed. So we're going to see if we can't put together a class for them. and
Great.
help them to understand our systems that we sell. We locate our DC disconnect on the outside of the house, so it's accessible for the fire department or for the utility or for anybody that needs to shut it off.
Practical.
It is very practical by locating. We put it on a weatherproof box, but it's it's outside, so that if anybody needed to shut it off, you could, and that makes it a little safer for those emergency responders who might have to come to the home.
Excellent.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Let's go back to, we talked about the unfunded mandates. How about jobs and investments in our economy?
Well, again, jobs, everything's fine. So you need the infrastructure. You need the roads and bridges to get them there. You need the water for fire suppression, and you need to kind of like connect the dots, if you will. It's just so important. Sometimes people just kind of, again, put everything in their they compartmentalize things when it's not. We have to make the investment across the board if we really want to have more jobs, if we really want to expand the economy, if we really want to have more, put more money in the pockets of consumers out there so there's more consumer spending,
Sure.
It's all connected, but quite often, again, it's just like the tunnel vision. A lot of times people don't see the connection, so it's up to people like us to show them how it's connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Interesting point now too is the raise in the minimum wage. With the minimum wage going up to $11, I guess they finally passed something to get it up to $11 by 2017. I think it is. So over 3 years, I suppose that's better than nothing. I would have liked to have seen it a little faster. Minimum wage does a couple of good things for us. For one thing, it raises tax revenues. If everybody's making more money, then more money will flow into the government in order for the government to be able to do the things that it needs to do. So many people complain about taxes as being a burden. I'm paying too much. My tax burden is too high. I never want to look at it that way. I look at a young couple with a couple of kids, and maybe between the two of them, they're making $50,000 or $60,000, $45,000, $50,000, $60,000, something in that range. If they're paying 25% of their income in taxes, what are they paying? $11,000, $12,000, maybe $15,000 in taxes. Total tax bill, around 25% of their income. What are they getting for that money? That's the important question. It's not so much how much am I paying in taxes. It's am I getting a good value for my money? And to my mind, things like snow removal. Snow removal alone is tremendous. Every time it snows, the roads are cleared. And I can go anywhere I want within a few hours and do anything I need to do.
The things you take for granted, right?
Exactly. You take these things for granted. Not only do you have snow removal, you have police protection, fire protection, roads, bridges, schools, infrastructure, all the myriad things the government does for everybody. Again, it comes back to my point. Government can and should be a force for good in people's lives. That's what I sincerely believe. And we get the government we deserve. We elect our government here, and we get the government that we deserve. And we should insist on quality people such as yourself to go in there and represent us well.
Thank you. And funny you should bring that up. One of the things when I'm out talking to people, it's like, oh, well, what are you doing? What are you running for? Who's there now? Whatever. I said, look, this is how I look at it. I'm going for a job. This just happens to be the longest job interview ever. But in this case, every 2 years, the job's open. It's the people's seat, and people get to make another decision. So I'm here. They can call me, 508-248-4642. We'll talk. I'll come. You can interview me. And then, again, November 4th is a big day. I am fortunate that I do not have any other Democrats running.
Right, so you don't have a primary opponent, so that's
correct.
nice.
But I'd still appreciate them checking my name off on that.
Sure, if you're going to be in the ballot box, in the ballot booth, right.
But that's it's kind of and I like to think it's because I've been working so hard and talking to so many people, But come November 4th, I hope to earn their vote. So again, it's a job here I'm applying for, and I'm giving people the opportunity.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's on that note, let's put up your contact, how people can contact you. Brett, if you want to go to camera 3 for me, thank you. So I always get this wrong when I'm trying to do this on the camera because it's not like looking in a mirror.
Okay, I'm not even looking.
www.ksrepma.com.
There you go.
On Twitter, it's @KSRepMA. And on Facebook, it's Facebook/KSRepMA. Actually, it would be Facebook.com/KSRepMA, wouldn't it? So I think you're missing a .com in there somewhere. But certainly go to the website and you can click through to the Facebook now. I think you also have one of your mailers. Can we take a look at your mailer?
Sure. This is the newest. This is actually like the 4th thing I've come out with.
Okay.
But yep, it's one of our mailers.
This is nice. There we
Yeah,
go.
It's a little different, you know, we wanted to,
Yeah. Get the word out there, right?
Yep.
Get people involved. So people can volunteer or donate at the website, correct?
and I can share with you a little bit about myself.
Sure.
Because again, people, you know, I'm fortunate. Right now I live in Charlton. I've lived there probably for about 29 years,
Okay.
but I wasn't born there. I was actually born in New York City.
Oh, so you're a carpetbagger. Okay.
Queens, Queens, New York City. Yes, but I moved. I lived with my mom, and at the time, one of my brothers, my other brothers were off in the military, and my sister was married. But we lived in the projects. And I'm okay with that. And then we moved here because one of my other brothers, did move to Massachusetts, and he said, you know, come on, we got to get you out of there. And so we moved to Massachusetts, Maine South area, actually, of Worcester.
Okay.
And I think I moved there when I was about 11 years old.
Okay.
But I always joke with the kids. It's like, yeah, Ma, you're going to tell us that story again? And when I lived in New York, when going out to eat consisted of, no, and I kid you not, it maybe happened once a month. It was a hot dog. We went to the hot dog vendor on the corner.
Yeah.
A hot dog, a yoo-hoo, a pretzel, and we pulled up the curb.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting. And did our shopping at Sal's, you know,
Yep,
Salvation
yep,
Army.
yep.
And people don't, because again, they kind of look at me now, and it's like that. Trust me, I get it on many levels.
Right.
You know, because
Right.
I've been there and experienced a lot. And
There's-
that, you
there
know,
is nothing wrong with humble beginnings. You know, when I was a kid, I worked my tail off. I remember when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my parents asked me what I wanted for Christmas. Well, you know what? I wanted to earn my own money. I wanted to have my own money so that I could spend my own money and do whatever I wanted.
oh, very good.
I asked them for a snow shovel.
Really?
At 6 years old, I asked them for a snow shovel because we had sidewalks.
Yeah.
And there was many neighbors who were
A
elderly.
little entrepreneur
I
here.
wanted to shovel the walks and earn a nickel or a dime or a quarter. I'm talking 1964, 1965. I remember asking for a snow shovel and getting a snow shovel.
And when you
for
got,
Christmas.
and we earned, and so that's the feeling that you experience when you get out there and you earn your first
When you earn your
penny.
own money. Yeah.
I don't know how much you got back then for shoveling, but
A nickel
I too,
most, yeah.
the first time I got a job, I actually was able to work for Neighborhood Youth Corps, I think it was called at the time, which allows you to work at a younger age because of your circumstances.
Yep.
But boy, that first time you get the money, and I saved up to buy a car. And actually, I knew my husband back then, so he helped me get a car back then, really a Chevy Nova. But it was rusty, and it had holes. If you lifted up the things, you know, you'd get wet because it was bad.
Yeah.
But I was that feeling, that pride, that I earned that.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
that my rusty car. But you
My
know,
first real job where I had taxes withheld was in
What are they?
1974. Yeah, I made $2 an hour, and I saved up to buy my brother's 1967 Impala. It was a lovely car, 1967 Chevy
They don't
Impala.
make cars like that anymore.
Convertible,
Oh, wow.
convertible, the 283 V8, the 2-speed power glide transmission, and an AM radio, and white leather seats.
I'm getting the visual.
I was styling in those days.
Nice.
I had my own convertible. I had wheels, and that was
That's huge, though.
that was
isn't it?
enormous. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
to me, so before I got the car, I've worked since I was like 14, 15. But I worked at a hospital in the city, and I lived I had to take 2 buses to get there. So that's why I really appreciated that car,
Yeah.
that car, because again, it's that much sweeter. But that's that's what I tried to help my kids to you can't. That's something you can't. It's not tangible.
Right.
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 So, but that's what
yeah.
more I think people need, and our children growing up need to experience, because it's kind of like a catch-22 though, because you always want better for your kids. I don't care if your kids are whatever, you know, special needs, whatever. You always want what's best for your child. And
Right.
what
Well,
parent wouldn't want that?
I just read today that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama want Sasha and Malia to work minimum wage jobs
There you go.
because they both did. You know, and they talked about their own humble beginnings. Barack worked scooping ice cream at Baskin-Robbins for minimum wage when he was young, when he was in high school. And he wants that same thing for his daughters. He wants them to learn what it is to
like and how
earn
long it
your own
takes,
money.
and
Yeah.
that's excellent.
It really is.
But yeah, so you want what's best for your kids, but you don't want to just hand it to them so they can experience the same thing. And I think people take pride in that, so
Sure, sure.
it's good.
Yep, there's nothing wrong with humble beginnings. But even before I got that first job at $2 an hour, I was industrious. I was always working.
Do you still have that shovel? That's what I want to know.
Actually, I think it's broken by now. But yeah, I mean, we had the seasonal work, right? I mean, I was shoveling in the wintertime. I was raking out lawns and turning over gardens in the spring. I was mowing lawns in the summer and raking leaves in the fall. And I had a paper route when I think I was 9 or 10 years old. I got a paper route,
Wow.
and then I expanded my paper route to the next neighborhood over when the paper boy over there decided he was too old to continue a paper route.
Yeah.
The guy that was my guy that dropped off the newspapers for me said, "Hey, there's another route next neighborhood over. Do you want that as well?" Sure, I'll take that as well. And I think let's see, if I was 10 years old, it was 1968. I think I was making about $8 a week.
Which is, oof.
Which was huge.
But,
Yeah.
so I had, this kind of backfired on me though. So I was working, and again, trying to help my mother, she was legally blind. She was on she was collecting assistance, or she was.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to help her go to school, and I was making, I think I was working in dietary. Dietary people made big bucks, because I worked night shift, and it was interesting. But I thought I was doing so well, and I know I was needed at home. I wound up, I have a master's degree in health education, but I dropped out of high school.
Wow.
The people say, what do you regret? I have to say, I do regret it. But it took me, I went and it took me about 2 months to figure out that was really not too bright. It's like the world slap you upside the head.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go and I did get my GED, and I still actually associate with all 5 my girlfriends from way back when.
Sure.
And then I earned my master's going part-time. I have a Bachelor of Science and then a master's. I went to Worcester State, which was just Worcester State back then.
Right.
And commuted back and forth and had a child in between. But again, it was so sweet by the time I did get that degree.
Yep.
Again, I regret doing it, but it was an interesting detour.
Karen, we all carve our own path in life, don't we? I mean,
right.
That's just the way that is. So.
But I usually don't like to tell a story because I don't want other people thinking, well, you did it, so I can do it. Because that's not the norm, unfortunately. It's not usually what happens.
Yeah, so often people with a GED don't do anything, or often people don't even get the GED, or they don't do much else with it once they do. So.
But it does help, especially nowadays. Not every student needs to go to college. They can go, I know a lot of them choose to do the military. A lot of them choose, if they're coming out of Volk schools. Volk schools today are so different, and they have so much to offer.
Right.
And I know the president came because of Worcester Volk,
right.
and no achievement gap.
Right. That's tremendous.
And sometimes, and I still hear people to this day talk, well, if you're going to Volk school, it's because, you couldn't make it. Oh, it's like, no, not anymore. And then actually, I don't think that was ever the case.
Right. Karen, believe it or not,
time's up.
we're done with an hour. Yes.
No, really?
Yeah. So you've been watching All Politics is Local. Tonight we had Karen Spiewak, state rep candidate for the 6th Worcester District. Thank you so much for tuning in. All Politics is Local is a production of the Greater Blackstone Valley Democrats. For more information about the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems, visit our website, www.gbvdems.org. Thank you.